Hey, I'm StogieShane with cigars.com. I'm here this morning with Jeff Avo Uvezian of Rockefeller Cigar Group. You'll recognize the middle and last name. His father is Avo Uvezian, a living legend in the cigar world. And we wanted to ask some questions to Jeff about his new line of Rockefeller cigars and why he somewhat connects with the cigars.com mission. Jeff, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you coming to Pensacola. We just did an event last night called Gallery Night, and Jeff was here promoting his Rockefeller line and did a fantastic job. As always, we sold a lot of Rockefeller. Jeff, your dad's a living legend in the cigar world. Your brother Ronnie has served by his side for some time. What are you doing with the Rockefeller line? And
Well, originally we came out with the Rockefeller line in 2010 with I have a partner who came to me who actually produces a cognac and a vodka, and they came to me asking if I could help them put together a cigar to match their liquor line, and I said sure, but I would control the marketing and the packaging and the blending of the product. And I actually am working with a boutique factory in the Dominican Republic that originally had blenders who worked for Dava to help to create the first Avos many years ago, and I thought that would be the ideal opportunity to come out with a cigar named after the Rockefeller mystique combined with the Uvezian name in cigars, and the result was the Rockefeller cigar line. Originally I positioned it to be a value brand, and in fact Cigar Insider named it a very quote-unquote wallet-friendly product, right. High quality at a very value price during the throes of the Great Recession, and it's been successful where we support brick and mortar, and my forte is going to stores all around the country, and this is my second time in Pensacola, which last night, Gallery Night, was quite an amazing volume of people coming through the store promoting the product and supporting brick and mortar.
Awesome. We're real proud to feature the Rockefeller line on cigars.com through a number of different merchants. Jeff, tell us a little bit about the line.
Sure. The Rockefeller line now consists of 3 different varieties. The Connecticut line is an Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper with a Dominican binder and Dominican and Nicaraguan fillers. That tends to be a little bit milder profile for your middle-of-the-road smoker. Then we also have the Havana line, which is an Ecuadorian Havana wrapper, again with a Dominican Olor binder and Dominican and Nicaraguan fillers. That line is received an 88 rating for our Churchill in Cigar Aficionado magazine without advertising, which I'm very happy about that. That tends to be one of the more peppery smokes. Sure. The Habano has a lot of flavor in it in the wrapper. And then my favorite is the Maduro line we make with the Brazilian Maduro wrapper, which produces a very sharp taste. That line, we make a box press Churchill that I'm just in love with, and that product has done very well at stores throughout the country. We now have also come out with a cigar that we make for Lawrence Taylor of the New York Giants. I was approached by Mr. Taylor and his agent to make a cigar for his 56th birthday that he was celebrating in New York City, and we struck a deal to produce the LT56, number 56 Hall of Fame linebacker for his 56th birthday. Sure. And that's a product made in Nicaragua with the Nicaraguan volcanic Lajero and an Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper, and that product is also starting to take off in the stores. And we plan to do some new lines with sports figures involved on the same basis.
Definitely. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I mean, the key to the business, I think, is to keep reinventing yourself, having the classic line, the Connecticut, the Habano, and the Maduro, and then supplementing it with other sexier, more interesting lines to promote activity on the shelf.
Right. As a cigar manufacturer and brand owner, what importance do you put on the traditional brick and mortar store in the U.S., and how do you think that cigars.com is different from other online companies in that we can service the brick and mortar industry?
Well, first thing, I think brick and mortar is of paramount importance to the boutique manufacturer. One hand washes one hand shakes the other. Definitely. And if you get your product into the boutique store, shelf space is difficult to get to begin with. But once you're in a boutique store and you help them move the product, doing events, supporting them, working with them on financing the inventory, they remember that and they stand by your brand and they'll promote your brand. So I'm 100% supportive of the brick and mortar stores. We very discreetly limit who we use online to sell our Rockefeller cigars, because I don't want to take the customer out of the brick and mortar store at this point. Cigars.com works for me, being a new boutique manufacturer with a line like Rockefeller, which has a great name combined with the Uvezian name, to expose the brand through Cigars.com to retailers that we might not be able to reach easily, and at the same time support you in your efforts to build Cigars.com into a successful alternative for brick and mortar stores to move their inventory.
Right. What we can help do is provide volume sales and exposure, but only by using the brick and mortar interface, rather than having to advertise through different media and through different online companies and consolidators.
I think your concept's a great concept, and that's why we're one of the first companies to support it.
We're proud of that.
100%.
We're proud of that. I'm sure you've been asked your thoughts, but I'll ask them once more just so that we can put it on camera for somebody to watch anyways. What are your thoughts on what impacts the Cuban cigar embargo, if lifted, and we begin importing Cuban cigars into the States again? What do you think the impacts will be on the cigar market that we currently enjoy, and how long do you think that would take?
Well, I think at first you're going to have a lot of confusion coming into with Cuban brands coming into the market over trademark issues. A lot of the Dominican companies and American companies own Cuban trademarks that they're allowed to register in the country. Not only the trademark but also the logos.
Sure.
So I think there's an issue when it finally does open up. That's going to be something to be looked at and be cognizant of. I also think the Cuban cigars, I think, are somewhat overrated. I think you're talking about a period of maybe a year or two where people will be all excited about a Cuban product coming in, and then realize that they're inconsistent. They are not as well constructed at times as the Dominican or Nicaraguan products, and that they're really all pretty much on a level playing field now, because many of the great Cuban families that went to Dominican, Fuente, companies like that, now are obviously as good a cigar maker as anyone in Cuba. I think people have to realize, they get asked the question a lot, where can I get Cubans? You can't get Cubans yet. They've only made the laws a little bit more liberal so that you could travel there more easily, send more money there, maybe go on an educational trip to learn about the Cuban economy and stuff like that. But you're talking several years at a minimum, I think, until the embargo is lifted with the way the Congress is set up now.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're talking about a period of at least 2 years, in my opinion, before we might actually see the cigars hit the market. And then, I think, after an initial educational period, a transition period of maybe 1 or 2 years, then I think the market will be back to balance. It makes me excited because I could then go ahead and maybe create a Nicaraguan, Dominican, Cuban mix, which would be a great blend to bring, all have strong characteristics in the tobacco of their own. So I'm excited about it, and I think like in the early 90s when the cigar boom started and everyone got crazy at that point in time with a tremendous increase in volume of imports from the Dominican and Nicaragua and Honduras, I think you'll have a similar effect where a lot of the people who are sort of on the fence about going into the cigar business or actually enjoying a cigar will jump in because everyone's all excited about it, and it'll bring the end result will be a good benefit overall, I think, to the brick and mortar store, to the manufacturers and the distributors in the United States.
Definitely. And just to clarify, that couple of year window that you anticipate, I definitely anticipate also, but that's, to me, that window begins the day that Congress decides to lift the embargo, which is still not on the table.
Right.
We could still be, years away from that decision. So
absolutely,
people ask the brick and mortar store operators all the time where Cuban cigars are and where can we get them. And I got one in New Orleans, or I got one here or there. They definitely did not read the entire article from the headline, but there has to be a decision to be made first, and then it's still going to take 2 to 5 years to fight it out in trademark court and figure out who owns what brands. Everybody wants to side with the families that own, to say that the families own the brands, not Havana's SA. But in truth, if the real end game is to get Cuban cigars into the U.S., the families aren't the people that have to be placated with that decision. It's actually Havana's SA that has to be placated with that decision, and then we've got to determine what families give up the brands. or change their trademarks or whatever.
Right. I
So-
mean, I think you're talking about a lot of I'm not sure about litigation, but a lot of negotiation, possible litigation
Right.
between the Cubans and the owners of the trademarks there and the owners of the trademarks in the U.S. Because when you're talking about since for multi-generational
Yep.
ownership of these trademarks, and that is going to be something that has to be negotiated and settled, and it'll come down to a mutually beneficial deal, I believe, between the Habanos and the families here.
It's exactly what I think too, and I think it's a negotiating process too. But it's definitely not something that occurs overnight.
Absolutely. So, I mean, in the meantime, yes, there's a mystique to Cuban cigars. Yes, they have their own beautiful characteristics in terms of their strength and their taste and the soil and climate they're grown in. At the same time, Nicaraguan and Dominican cigars are here. They're great, and they offer great opportunities for you to try new blends. I think
Yep.
the beauty of boutique blends is that you get something new that's an up-and-coming brand, and you could jump on the bandwagon and enjoy something that's different than what's put out by the mainstream
Right.
manufacturers.
My thoughts too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I'm glad you were here for us this weekend.
Oh, Pensacola is great. This gallery night was something very special to see the downtown business owners receive such great economic benefit from a night like last night.
It's a big deal. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Be sure to check us out on cigars.com and look for some great deals and some great smokes. Thanks.